hardest working date night you've ever had, right?
That's right.
Now, this is going to be a lot of fun. One of the things that Natalie and I have done for several years now is we go over to Bonefish Grill, and Bonefish has something you can write on when if you don't know this, they use kind of stuff like this. And one night over at Bonefish, we just took out a pen and we wrote down, what are we going to accomplish next year? What are the places we're going to go? What are the people we're going to help? What are the dreams we're going to have? And you'd be shocked how creative you get after 2 or 3 cucumber margaritas. You know what I'm saying? But it kind of became something that we really enjoy doing. And so on our date night, we kind of turn our date night, and we have a 6-year-old daughter, so you don't get a lot of date nights. We kind of just turn our date night into a visioneering night, a night where we could just spend time together and talk about, like I said, what we wanted to do together. What were our goals? What were our dreams? What were our visions? What were our frustrations? And we thought we'd like to recreate that tonight, because if you don't know, many of you are in our coaching program, but we have about 700 people that we're coaching every month. And those people are literally all over the world. There's a big contingency here in Middle Tennessee where I live and where the Greatness Factory is. But one of the constant things I always hear from time to time is, how do I get my significant other on board with me? How do I get my spouse on board with me? How do I get my partner on board with me? And so for a long time, we didn't do anything for that. I just said, good luck, good luck on that, right? I'm like, I'm coaching one of the people, and good luck on how to figure that out, right? But I have a theory, and the theory that I operate on is, how do we build something for the whole person? That's the body, the mind, the heart, and the spirit of a person. So this year, we've created programming for kids. So if you notice, we made a big push through Monster Kids. We've got online training. We're doing live events for kids. And we made a big push for couples. Okay? And so I think it's a very important part. I know that if you go out into the world and you try to pursue big goals and big dreams, and you go home and that person, it doesn't understand you, doesn't think like you think, it could be very easy for that person to kind of erode some of the confidence that you're building. Does that make sense? And in our relationship, I get a lot of attention from the marketplace. And if I don't get any kind of attention from my wife, it would be very easy for me to say, well, I just want to work all the time because I get a lot of love out in the world. And I heard T.D. Jakes say that once. Said he got a lot of, when he goes out in the world, he's T.D. Jakes and Pastor and Bishop T.D. Jakes, and when he goes home, he's just T.D., but that's hard because you get so much attention, and for you, that may be the case for you, is it's hard to put it all together. So tonight is really going to be a great experience, I think, for you. We're going to work through a goal guide, and one of the biggest things I'm most proud of is my wife writing this book, and I'm going to let her talk about it, about how the book came to be, and how we kind of manifested, because I'm a big person that believes in committing first and then figuring out second. How many of y'all believe that? A lot of my monster producers. So I create something without any thought whatsoever. I say we're going to do it. I put it in the future, and then I just get creative on how we're going to figure it out. Does that make sense? Now, a lot of monster producers I coach are like this. They create something in their mind. They have no idea how they're going to make it happen, but they just take action toward it, right? Well, if you're a planner like my wife, she thinks first and then figures out methodically how she's going to go do it. I just say, we're doing it, and she's like, well, how are we going to do it? And I'm like, we'll figure that part out, sweetie. We'll figure that part out.
Crazy. Okay.
So listen, when they say opposites attract, she and I are opposites. In almost every facet of the word, we're opposites. So I'm going to let her talk about why she created the book, Living with the Monster. And then we're going to get into kind of how this goal guide works. And we're going to work you through some exercises that we've worked through and help you figure out what your primary love language is and help you figure out how to work with each other and help you, more than anything, cultivate a vision. Because here's the last thing I'll say about this. We go so hard and so fast, we very seldom talk about where we're going. We just go. We just wake up, we go to work, we do our thing, we raise kids, and we just go. We don't talk about, like, where is this headed? What are we doing? What's your role in this? See, we have figured out a way in our marriage for me to maximize her talents in our business. First we had to help her find her voice, find her talents, then actually leverage and use those talents as part of our grander vision. So she manages all of our real estate, she manages all of the hospitality for our events, she manages all of our retreats, and that is exactly what her talent is. Okay, so it's like we're both combining our talents toward one vision. We call that intentional congruence, by the way. I'm in my strength zone coaching, she's in her strength zone with her hospitality talents, and it's all generating revenue for our family, by the way. So it's a good, positive thing, okay? So talk to them about why you wrote this book, Living with the Monster, because you know what my theory is? Every person in this room should write a book. If life's worth living, it's worth writing down, okay? And you got a book in you. And if nobody ever reads that book except you and your family, it's worth it, trust me. It's worth it for you to go through the process of taking your story and putting it down. So tell them why you wrote this book.
Well, first, I want to thank Lena, who's my ghostwriter. She's here tonight. Wave at everybody so they know who you are. She helped me organize my thoughts because this was a very uncomfortable process for me. So thank you for all your help on that. So he had spoken at 10X back in February, and that same day, I am sitting in the spa with my girlfriends, and I see this post on Facebook. It's been a big week for us. Whoa, hey. Speaking to 10,000 people in Las Vegas at the 10X Growth Con challenged me to get better and be ready. It also showed me how important it is to have an incredible support system. My wife, Natalie Burt, is that for me. Behind the scenes, she quietly goes about her business of freeing my mind up and coordinating our events. She places me in my strength zone. But more importantly, she brings a belief to me and a confidence. Even when people are negative, even when it gets tough, she always shows up. She will be writing a book called Living with a Monster that will shed light on operating in high pressure environments with driven partners. I can't wait to read it. So I say to my girlfriends, I'm like, this is really sweet, but do you see what he is doing here? Just committed me on Facebook to write a book. So that is how it came about. This is not really a strength of mine to be up here talking in front of you, so bear with me. But I feel like what is in this book needs to be read, and I may end up rewriting it one day because there'll be more to add to it. The more I learn, the longer we're together. But I also felt like, and Lena helped me come up with this idea of not only does the book tell you how I live with a driven person, but this goal guide walks you through very basic steps of how to build a monster vision together as a couple, which I think is important. Because I know what his vision is, it makes those days easier when meetings run late or things get rescheduled or things don't go as planned. It is easier for me because I know what the big vision is for us as a couple. So let's get right into it.
When you think about this concept, when Natalie and I met, she was in a job that she didn't like. She'd been in for 13 years selling cell phones for Verizon. And I used to go in there mainly to flirt with her. But I knew she had potential, right? I knew she had unlimited potential. She solved problems, she was thinking. And what she said to me one day is she's never had a good coach in her life. See, I think you can become this for each other. And I even wrote down this in my goal guide, is that it's okay to have some creative tension between you and your significant other. Mm-hmm. And creative tension is, Brittany, I see something in you. Like you can push harder. You can become this, right? So I kept kind of pushing her to take her talent and do something bigger. And at that time, she wanted to start a catering business. because she loved catering. And I said, you need to start your own catering company. You need to quit the job at Verizon that you hate. You need to quit doing something you don't need to do. And you need to go out there into the world, and you need to go do what you're supposed to be doing, right? And that was very uncomfortable for her. She started her catering company only to learn that there's a lot of work, very little profit, unless she did it in bulk. But she needed to learn that lesson. Everybody with me here? She needed to get out of that rut of Verizon. She needed to go do what she was supposed to do. But all of that led her to where she is today. So I think it's okay to have a little creative tension. So I did volunteer her to write the book.
Because honestly, I probably would not have done it
Yeah.
if he wouldn't have done that.
Now, the second thing I said about that is this. I said, sweetheart, your desire to help people has got to become greater than your desire for comfort. Now, I want you to hear what I just said. Your desire to help people with no one else, because there's a lot of people live with driven people, yes or no? Ambitious, driven, and it ain't easy living with a driven person. Okay? I don't know in this relationship who the monster is. Some days it's Tommy, some days it's Brittany. But Brittany has a relentless spirit about her, which means when it gets 7 o'clock, if it ain't done, she's not going to come home at 7 o'clock. She may stay till 9 o'clock. Now, how does he deal with that?
I like that.
He likes it, okay. But here's the deal. That wasn't the answer I was expecting.
That's not really the way
Especially
I
on
would have
Saturdays
answered that.
Saturday
Yeah.
on football day.
As long as it's on a Saturday.
But here's my point. You know, you're going to find out in the book that one of the big, huge takeaways in this book that I was reading as I was reading her book is this. When she quit trying to understand me. Now, you're going to hear a lot of people say, well, you got to understand the person. You got to walk in their shoes. You got to empathize with them. But she really quit trying to understand me and just started accepting me for who I am. Does that make sense? I am how I am because that's how God made me. Type A, firstborn, Leo, driver. If she does anything to suppress that in me, I actually believe that'll build an undercurrent of resistance and resentment toward her. You understand what I'm saying? So early on in our career, she saw my ambition as a direct competitor to her. Like his drive is a competitor to me. And that happened, which created a lot of frustration. If I was late when I came home at all, if I was pushing too hard, that created a friction and frustration for us. And then one day she come in and she said, I'm going to quit fighting versus your ambition. And I'm going to accept who you are. And I'm going to start cooperating with this ambition. Because part of the reason you have this drive is for me and our daughter to have a better life. You see that? That was to me, that's a big part of that book. It's like, how do I just accept you for who you are versus try to change you to fit what I want you to be? You see where I'm going with this? So for her to write the book, her desire to help people had to overcome her desire to be comfortable. And then she wrote the book, and here's what she said. Wasn't that hard to write the book? But she did it. Everybody see what I'm saying? So we're going to work through some stuff tonight. These are some big takeaways that I want you to have. So if you want to, so there's 2 books that you got as part of tonight. One is my book, Inside the Mind of a Monster, where I basically break down how do big-time monsters think. This is my toughness book. This book is not for the faint of heart. If you want to be a big-time person, in my opinion, and I'm coaching a lot of big-time people, this shows you exactly what the habits of those people are. Most people are going to read this book and go, I'm not tough enough. I'm not emotionally tough enough. I'm not mentally tough enough. I don't attack a day like I'm supposed to. That's what a lot of people are going to do. Okay? Her book is going to show you how to live with that person. Okay? So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to work through some of this Goal Guide stuff. Okay? So go ahead and open up this piece right here. When is the last time you sat down and talked about your vision, right, of where you're going to take your life and where you're going to go and how you're going to do it together and the intentionality of that? Because what I find out is everything else comes first and then we talk about that later. It's like, man, we're just busy, things are happening, and we're growing, but we don't ever talk about the intentionality of we're going from here to there. Here's what it's going to take, and here's what it's going to cost, and here's the sacrifice that's going to have to be made. Okay? And here's how we're going to do it. So I wrote down, how do you be intentional? So if you go into there to About Us page, I want you to first talk about the things you're thankful for as it relates to each other. when I wrote down how we met, I like to joke. Natalie didn't take me serious at all when we first met. You know why? Because I was just goofing off. I was just goofing off. I didn't take my own self serious. So she didn't take me serious. That makes sense? I see a lot of business people, they don't take their own self serious. Other people don't take them serious. Well, with her, she didn't take me serious because I didn't take my own self serious. So I really wanted to kind of forget about how we first met. Because I'm kind of embarrassed by how we first met, right? We'll save that for another talk.
Yeah, we won't go through that.
No, you don't need to know. Now, but when we're writing down things we're thankful for, one of the things I wrote down, just as you're thinking about this, there was a period of time where Natalie was pregnant with our daughter. We were not married. We were dating. We were separate. I didn't know if we would be together or not be together. And one day I had this strong vision that we need to be in the same house with each other. This is our daughter. You know, we're having a daughter, and we need to be in the same house. We don't need to be separate. And so she came to live in my house, and for most of that time she was pregnant, I slept in the pool house. So we were living in the same house, but we were not together, although we were about to have our daughter. And so when I was doing this exercise today, one of the things I said was, what I'm most grateful for is that at some point we made a decision to fight for our relationship. We both made a decision to grow up and fight through the uncertainty. Does that make sense? And that was a big thing I'm grateful for because we didn't have to do that. Mm-hmm. She could have just said, I'm out. I could have said this because we were not on the same page during that cycle, during that period of time. I mean, literally, she was inside in the house sleeping in the bed, and I was sleeping in the pool house. And it was just a lot of friction between us. Okay? So I want you to take a few minutes and talk about and work through that. Like, what are you grateful for about each other? So I wrote down fighting through uncertainty and our commitment and recommitment every week to the vision of where we're trying to go. Because let me tell you something, there's a lot of nights I go home as a coach, I'm brokenhearted, I'm broken-spirited, somebody's let me down, somebody's give up, somebody's quit on me. You know, when you coach 700 people a month, you see everything. You follow what I'm saying? I don't show that to a lot of my clients. So when I go home, the person that hears it is her. Like, I can't believe this happened, I can't believe this. So we have to recommit. Why are we doing this? Right? What are we doing? Where are we going? How do we stick it out? So take a minute right now and kind of work through some of those things, okay? We're about to move into that kind of love languages piece. I know for me personally, one of my main love languages is words of affirmation. What I really want to know is that Natalie understands how hard I go every day for our family. And she's in there fighting with me and for me. And I think a lot of men need that. They need to know, like, hey, I know what you go through every day. I see the early mornings, I see the late nights. So, like for me, you could buy me gifts all day long, and it doesn't faze me at all. Do I appreciate them? Sure. But what means more to me than anything is getting a text in the middle of the day from Natalie saying, man, I know how hard you're fighting for our family, and that means the world to me. And I know what you go through every day to do what you do. And I appreciate that, and I respect that. That's me, right? So if you don't understand these love languages, our daughter's is affirmation. You know, our daughter's...
Actually, all three of ours are.
Yeah. And so our daughter's strong-willed, but when we go at her hard, she doesn't respond. We got to say, you're going to be a great kid today. You're not going to lose any dojo points. Yeah. That's what we're on right now, not losing dojo points. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we're so proud of you. You know what I'm saying? We constantly have to affirm her to try to get her to, be what we want her to be. But talk a little bit about these 5 love languages and why that's critical.
Well, first of all, does everyone know what their love languages are? If you don't know, we'll take a few minutes. There is a free quiz online at 5lovelanguages.com. You can learn them, and it just takes a couple minutes to go through it if you want to do that real quick, because that will help.
So, some of you know,
in the next few pages.
But if you don't know, Gary Chapman wrote a book called The 5 Love Languages. And he basically said there's 5 ways people communicate with each other. And you really need to know what your number 1 and number 2 is and number 3, because, like I said, if I came home and she gave me gifts every day, it wouldn't faze me. So until she understands this is what connects with him. Okay, so I actually numbered mine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like this is my number 1, this is my number 2, this is my number 3. But if you go to the website 5lovelanguages.com, you can take a pretty quick test, and it'll actually tell you what your love language is. So take a few minutes, right, and work through that, and just communicate that with your partner there. All right, one of the people I studied for many years was Dr. Stephen Covey. It's really who I studied the most. And one of the things he talked about was called the emotional bank account. And the emotional bank account is where you deposit into another person's bank account, but what you're depositing is trust. And it's all based on perception. And perception, contrary to what some people believe, is not always reality. Okay? So when you're thinking about these love languages, I think it's important that you understand that if my love language is words of affirmation, and I don't feel, my perception is that Natalie doesn't recognize how hard I work for our family, that creates a problem. I'm like, why don't you see, right? Like, okay? Now, men and women obviously communicate different. A man comes home at the end of the day, and the woman asks, how was your day? What does the man say? He's like, it's good. What'd you do? A lot of stuff. Got a lot done today. Good. Natalie will talk to me about what time she woke up and what time she rolled over and what they did at their workouts at the gym, and and it's she talks through every detail. I'm like, this is good or it's bad. That's it. Okay? Now, but my point is, when you move to the next page, it says, my spouse's love language is this, and then ways that you can make them feel loved. So I wrote down, appreciate and acknowledge the battle. Just appreciate and acknowledge the fight we go through every day. Because if you're running a small business, tell me it's not a dog fight every day. There's just the amount of energy that's sucked out of you in a day running a small business is ridiculous. Okay? So I wrote down, if your affirmation, appreciate and acknowledge the battle. Here's another one. I wrote down, stay close to me in the business jungle. And the reason I said that is because I travel a lot. And I'm out there on my own. And what's very important to me is stay close to me. Let's text, let's talk, let's stay in the current of the urgent with me. Okay? Because when I go on the road, she's at home raising our daughter. She's got a bunch of stuff to do.
Which is also a jungle.
Which is also a jungle. But it's, I don't want to be out there in the world by myself. I want her to stay close to me, right? I mean, I'm talking about physically close, like just keep like touch base with me, okay? And then I don't know if this one is selfish or not. It sounds kind of selfish. I wrote be easy and accommodating to deal with. Now, if you deal with difficult people all day long, and if you deal with the public that sometimes are not accommodating and not easy to deal with, sometimes when you get home, it's like, hey, how can we just help each other? And Natalie's really good about that. Thinking about whether I get home and she's got dinner ready, or she's going online and buying something that I need that I just mentioned one day. I mean, she's very, very good about just thinking about me and how she can help me. She's much better than that than I am. She thinks about things. She'll be like, I ordered you a new phone because I know you need a new phone, or I did this for you, or I did this for you, or I noticed you need this. She's very accommodating, and that's good. But those are all part of this, in my opinion, this affirmation, right? This affirmation. And so has everybody got clarity about what their 5 love languages are? Okay? One of the things I think you'll see if you come tomorrow night to Dr. Hotze, is I see a lot of men who don't have a lot of energy. Okay? I thought for a long time that they just were lazy. I'm like, what's wrong with this dude? He don't have any drive, he don't have any energy, he don't have any want to. And then I started going to Dr. Hotze in Houston, Texas, and he began explaining to me why men don't have energy. As you age, your body naturally begins to decline, and it quits producing things it needs to have drive. Testosterone, thyroid, different levels. And what he began to say to me is this: no matter how much you try to psych a man up, if his body is not operating at its intended state, then he don't have any drive. That would include his sex drive, that would include his prey drive, that would include any type of drive for him to go and pursue something. Does that make sense? Okay? And it has nothing to do with how much a person tries to psych themselves up. Their body is just not producing the things that it needs to go there. And I didn't know that. And by the way, I was low on everything. I was low on thyroid. I was low on testosterone. I mean, ridiculously low. And I was just kind of willing myself. I was tired all the time. I was tired in the afternoons. I was exhausted. And I just, Now, how does that affect our family? I go to work all day long. I exert all this energy. And then I go home, and what have I got left?
Crumbs.
I got nothing. I got no energy. I got no nothing. So I went to Doc Hotze, and I'm like, man, you got to help me keep my mojo, which is a big part of this equation. I think women respect men who get up every day and go get it. Okay? Now for me, I want my wife to have her own purpose in life besides me and our daughter. Like I personally see a lot of women that I coach that don't have a purpose outside of their children. Everybody understand what I'm saying? I'm like, they need a purpose, like a purpose on planet Earth, besides just taking care of their man. Okay? And I see that because what happens if the man's not there? I see a lot of women lose all of their confidence if the man's not there because they don't have their own purpose. And because of the way I'm wired, I have to respect. Like if Natalie didn't have her own purpose and wasn't doing her own thing, I have a hard time respecting the fact that she don't have her own purpose. Does that make sense? I want her to, she's got her own talent. She needs to distribute those to the world. That drives up how much I respect her. Okay? So on the next page, what you're really working through is how do you communicate better on these love languages. So take a minute right now and work through how do you communicate better to each other based on, now that you know the love language that they have.
I want to say this one quick thing before we move on from the love languages. I think it's important that you find some people that are close to you that can hold you accountable for these things. Meredith and I have discussed a lot what our husband's love languages are, and periodically she will text me and say, have you praised your husband today? So I thank you for doing that.
Not enough.
Hey,
I'm
you
just
praised your
kidding.
husband today? So I think that's helpful to have that. It just reminds you,
When you're thinking about a monster producer, give me some characteristics of, when you think about this monster that's living with a monster, let's give some adjectives to describe, like what does that mean? Because most monsters that I coach are hungry. They're not competing versus any type of number. So like if they get to $1 million, it don't faze them. They're competing versus one thing, their potential, which means they're constantly in a state of frustration. The most successful people I coach are the most frustrated people. And you know why? No matter what they achieve, it ain't enough. Everybody with me? So it's very hard for some people to understand it. Like, why can't you be happy? Why can't you be satisfied? You actually can be happy, but not satisfied. Does that make sense? Like, I would consider myself a happy person, but I'm not satisfied. Why? Because I'm in this constant fight between me and what I think I can become. Okay? Now, in my world, we work, we may leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we may get home at midnight. We may be gone for 4 or 5 days at a time. You understand what I'm saying? And that's tough on another person. Now, why would a monster do that? This is a big distinction. Most monster producers see their work as the distribution channel for their talents. They do not see work as a job. They see work as their calling. Do you see the difference here? It's their mission in life. So when it's their mission, here's the way they look at it. It don't matter what it takes, whatever it takes is what we're going to do. Right? Now, if you see your work as a job, I go to work at 8 o'clock, I get 45 minutes at lunch, and I go home at 5. I don't really love it. It's just part of what I have to do to provide for the family. And you're married to a monster, and the monster's like, look, because a lot of times I'll get requests to do something, and I say, yes, I'm in. Like I committed to going to South Africa next year to speak, only for my insurance guy to ask me, do you have ransom insurance? And Natalie's like, hold on a second here. You're going to go to South Africa, and it's dangerous, and you know, and I'm like, yeah, man, we're going. When are we going? Don't matter. I said yes. My point is, a lot of monsters take action, and if you don't understand that mindset of taking action first, you're going to constantly be like, you know, what's... So on the next page, it's talking about how content you are. I have a lot of mixed feelings about contentment. Like I've studied what the Bible says about contentment very heavily. But I also have studied about taking your talents and distributing them to the world. About having faith and action. And so I have mixed feelings about, should we be satisfied with what we have? Should we be completely content? Should we want more? Should we push harder? I just want to get in your brain that it's really not about more to most monster producers. It's not about bigger houses and nicer cars. Oh, that's superficial to some people. But what it is about is them toward where they think they should be. Does everybody understand where I'm going with this? So you're looking at them like, man, what more do you need? They're looking at themselves like, I ain't even close to my potential. And I got to keep exerting more energy here. And I got to keep going harder. And it's not always going to fit in a box. We did a show like that. Like very seldom do I get home exactly when I'm supposed to get home because the number of things happening in a day. At first, that created all kinds of friction between us. Why can't you get home on time? Why can't you do this? Why can't you do this? And I'm like, well, just several things happened today, and I had to deal with them, you know. And I didn't plan on them happening, but they happened. And now I got to figure out how to do that. And that's what happened. Most of you are growing businesses not at 30 or 40% a clip. Some of you are growing your business at 100% year over year. And with that comes lack of infrastructure, all kinds of issues, employee problems. You know, it comes with all kinds of stuff that, you know, she could be sitting home just banging on me like, why aren't you here? Why aren't you, what? You know, I'm like, man, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do this. So I just want to, on that next page, it kind of asks you how content you feel in certain areas. I'll be honest, I put almost 5 on every one of them. How satisfied are you in all these areas? I put 5 out of 10 on everything.
Except for relationship. Let's speak.
On relationship, sorry, sweetie. On relationship, no, I didn't put 2. On relationship, I put 8. That was actually the highest thing I put. But everything else on that, career, money, health, spiritual, recreation, I put 5, man. I don't even think I'm clicking on close to what I should be clicking on. Right? I got to get better. It takes a lot to put it all in the box, though, when you got to stuff. So take a minute right now and talk about, but just remember, the contentment, think of it like this. You can be happy but dissatisfied. And that's kind of gnawing away at you, like, man, I got to do better. She did a show not long ago called Uncomfortably Complacent.
Uncomfortably comfortable.
Uncomfortably comfortable, which means she was living a comfortable life, kind of a complacent life for a long period of time, but she was uncomfortable with it because she knew she could do more. Does that make sense? Yeah. Some of y'all said this to me, like, I know I could do more. I know I'm supposed to be doing more. How do I do it? What do I do? That's what she was saying. She could have just kept doing it for the next X number of years until she really dug in. Now she's doing her own books. She's doing her own retreats. The real goal is for her to end up coaching and me just stay home and do nothing. Okay? And we're one step closer now with this book, all right? But my point is, how many of you are out there going, man, I'm uncomfortably comfortable. That's the state I'm in right now. I'm just static. So take a minute right now and talk about that. On a scale of 10, where are we in each of these areas? Here, I want to go back to something she talks about in the book. And that is, you're probably not ever going to understand completely how the other person thinks. Your backgrounds are different, pedigree is different, training is different. And if you focus on that, like if Meredith says, why does Derek will work all night. Like literally, through the night, no sleep, drive to Atlanta, work the whole way there, work home. I'm like, I don't know how he does it. But that's how he's wired. Now, Meredith can spend all of her time trying to understand, like, why do you think like that? Or she could say, this is who he is. This is how he's made, right? I remember when I took a disc profile, I asked the disc profile expert, why am I like this? And here's what he said. I wouldn't ask that question. Here's what he said. That's how God made you. You are who you are. Does that make sense? So a lot of friction is, I hear this, well, I wish they would change. I see it in the workplace too. Like I wish my boss would be nicer or more friendly or work us less or do this. And I'm like, you ain't changing. They're not changing. This is who they are. Now, you can either work with them or not work with them. You can accept them or not accept them. But I think this is a huge part of that concept there. When you're looking at that, and I put 5s, I live in a state of discontentment. But that's kind of part of what drives me, is I'm constantly frustrated between the friction of where I am and where I think I should be. Does that make sense? You may look at it and go, chill out, because every people would ask me, like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm just trying to make it, man. Every day I wake up, I'm just trying to make it. And they're like, well, when do you know if you made it? I mean, aren't you already kind of making it? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm not. In my mind, I'm just out there grinding it out, trying to make it every day. So that's what you got to understand about this discontentment piece, is instead of trying to change them, like, just be happy, just be satisfied. That's part of what makes them who they are, okay? So they may put 5s on everything. You may put 10s. So just remember that. Now, on the next page, okay, this is going to get a little bit tougher. It's getting progressive. Hey, you knew we was going to have to come in there and work on the hard stuff, didn't you? Now, this is where areas that you feel like we need to grow. And it says, without placing blame. Natalie said this to me one day. How can anybody help you if you want to control everything? That's what she said. Nobody can help you because all you want to do is control everything. And do you remember saying that?
No.
Oh, you said it. I don't remember. I don't forget things like that. I'm like, oh, I remember. And I'm like, you're right. I do want to control everything because that's who I am. You understand? Can people help me? Sure, they can help me. But am I going to want to control it? Yes. Because I'm a control freak. Okay? We've been successful by me taking control of a lot of things. So when it comes to this one, like without placing blame on each other, what are some challenges that you say, look, there's an area we want to grow and get better. It's this area. Mine is being present when I'm home because I'm distracted a lot in my mind. Mine is not having crumbs for exhaustion, not having crumbs left over for my family. Not using the business to just eat up our whole life, because if it's up to me, we talk business 24 hours a day. That's just how I am. And the other one is just her understanding my business a little bit more so she understands what we go through every day. I think that's a key component. So take a minute right now and say, these are some areas we want to get better at, okay, as a couple.
On this next page, I want to share a little bit with you about this podcast I was listening to today with Lori Harder, and she was talking about how if you feel depressed, it's because you're living in the past, and if you feel anxious, it's because you are living in the future, and gratitude is what will keep you in the present. So on this next page, I want you to list some things that you are grateful for that your partner does to make you feel loved and significant. So let's take a few minutes and do that.
And one of the things I want to show you is a big concept we use called intentional congruence. Intentional congruence is where you and your partner are leveraging each other's talents in the business. Okay? Now, the way I look at it is this. It's something we love doing. It's something where we're combining both of our talents, and it's something that's profitable to us. So, for example, the retreats that we do, We love investing in real estate. So we went to Florida. We partnered with Derek. We bought a 9-bedroom house. We used that house. Natalie handles the rentals of that house. That house has already generated over $300,000 of revenue, top line revenue for us this year. Plus, we do retreats, coaching retreats at that house. So it makes money for us, and we go down and double up on the money, which is good because we always pay the house first, so the house gets the rent, and we add on the retreats. Natalie handles all the planning and hospitality. I handle all the coaching. So it's profitable. We love doing it. We love doing it with the people we do it with. Does that make sense? That is intentional congruence. Okay, now what I see a lot of people do is the husband's over here doing this, the wife's over here doing this, and they got nothing to do with each other. And it's two separate lives. Okay, and so what I find is that this is a good way to combine talents and leverage those talents into something that is profitable for us. Okay, so we've got a contract on a lodge that's close by, and we're going to be doing retreats here in Tennessee because not everybody will go to Florida. So as soon as we can close this lodge up, we're going to start hosting events at the lodge here in Tennessee, and Natalie will handle the stuff. I'll handle the coaching. Now let's take it one step further. I partner with big-time people to do these retreats. So like me and Michael Jordan's coach, Tim Grover, are going to do retreats. Me and Tim Story, who's a celebrity life coach, are going to do retreats. Me and Kevin Elko, who is Nick Saban's coach, are going to do retreats. You know, we're doing retreats with big-time people. Now, why is that good? Because we can learn from them. Not only are we doing the retreats, we're learning from other people while we're being profitable, while we're making money on the real estate. Does everybody see that? But the key point is, we wouldn't have any money to buy these places because these are expensive places if we didn't have a successful coaching business. The successful coaching business gives us the excess cash to invest in the real estate. Does everybody see that? And that's taken us 10 years to build a successful coaching business. Okay, so you got to understand how this all played in and how it all ties into this intentional congruence. And I think that's a big part because we get to spend valuable time with each other, but I really get to watch her do what she does best, which is hospitality. She loves doing it. She studies it. And so I'm always looking like, how do I include my wife in our business? How do I pull her in and let her do what she does best? And if we're making money doing it and it's profitable, it's the best thing in the world, right? So when you're working through this exercise, just think about that. What's growing and how do you do more of it? Like if these two, Tommy's got a successful real estate business, she's got a successful, would you consider clothing business or boutique business? How do they combine their talents so both of them are like pushing each other's businesses? How do they, you still understand what I'm saying? That's kind of what that intentional congruence concept is about. So take a minute right now and kind of work through that exercise. Now, this next exercise is real important. How do you affirm and validate the worth and potential in another person in so clear a way they begin to see it in their own self? That's one definition of leadership, by the way. You see something in them that they don't see in themselves. You with me? Me volunteering Natalie to write this book on Facebook before she knew she was ever going to write it was my way of committing her to something I knew she could do. Does that make sense? And when it got uncomfortable, I said, your desire to help people has got to overcome your desire for comfort. You can do this. I believe it. And she did it. You understand where I'm going with this? So a lot of times I think in a partnership, like I have no problem saying that to one of my clients. Like, look, man, you can do this. Go do it. Right? But I can't tell you how much validation people need. Sometimes they need another person to say, you can do this. I believe in you. Which I believe is the four most powerful words you can say to another person. Outside of saying I love you to a person, saying I believe in you is a very powerful statement to make to another person. And sometimes I say it every day, like I see something in you you don't even see. Now go forth and prosper. Go do it, right? So that's really what I said to Natalie. Like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. Now go do it. And that goes all the way back to our dating days. You can start your own catering business. You can quit that job that you don't like. You understand what I'm saying? And she said, nobody's ever really said these things to me. Nobody's ever really challenged me. Nobody's ever really pushed me. She did a retreat, and I said, you can do your own retreats. After she did the first one, she already started selling the next one. I love it, right? She's like, I'm already selling spots to the next retreat. I'm already got it on the books. I'm already doing it. Well, but her first thought was to contract. Like, what am I going to talk about at the retreat? What am I going to say? Who am I going to coach? Like I'm not a coach like you are. And I said, oh yeah, in your own way, you are a coach. So go do it. So the next one is really, the next exercise is about like, what do you see in your partner? And they need a little shot of confidence. I always say when you're low on confidence, you can borrow some from somebody else. Right? You can borrow swag from other people who's got it. I borrow it every day from people. I listen to people every morning. If I'm low on confidence, all I need is a little shot sometimes. Well, sometimes we need to do that with our partner. And we need to push them to a place of a little bit of discomfort. That's that little bit of creative tension. It's like, go do this, right? So take a minute right now and work through that. Like, what do you see? How do you help pull that out of your partner on things you think they could be doing that they're currently not doing? Now, if you live with a monster, how many of you live with a monster that has a hard time resting? Okay, resting their mind, resting. I was on vacation a week and a half ago, and Tommy Davidson documented how much time I worked while I was on vacation. And it's, so because I spent, 2 or 3, 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day, because I don't rest well. Sometimes I have to go away to rest. Sometimes I have to, there's certain days I can rest, like I start relaxing, on Friday and Saturday. But I do think it's important that you rejuvenate. I do think it's important that you go into the woods and come back out and refresh, because a lot of people I coach are tired. And when they're tired because of how they go, they come home and they're tired and they're frustrated and they're on edge. And it just creates a lot of problems at home because they're just so frustrated with their businesses. And they take that out on their significant other. Okay, so what I want you to work on right now, we've only got 2 more exercises, is I want you to go to that page at Venture, and I want you to say, here's some things I'd like to accomplish in 2019. Here's some places I would like to go. Like, we look at it like this, like, where have we not been that we would like to go? What is it that we've not done that we'd like to do? How do we combine some of these things and do some things next year that we didn't do? And we literally map out the entire year. Okay, so take a minute right now and write out, here's some things I'd like to do in 2019 that could be on our list. Maybe bucket list, maybe whatever, okay? So write that out, then we're going to finish with the monster vision. We both feel that a lot of times when you get sidetracked, it's because you get off the vision of where you're going. And I'm going to give you a personal example. We're trying to build a new greatness factory now, which is a 5,300 square foot, state-of-the-art, probably about a $2 to $2.5 million facility. That includes offices, it includes shared working space, it includes a rooftop, it includes a gym, includes a meditation spa. I mean, it's a really, really valuable building. And as things have come up, because it's hard to build something from scratch. It's a lot harder than I ever imagined. You got to get all the approvals. You got to go through it. You got to raise capital. It's difficult. And every time something comes up where I want to contract, because that's the natural tendency of people when they get scared is to contract. Your mind starts going, well, why can't we just stay here? Why can't we just do this? Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to spend this money? Why do we have to do this? Natalie always reminds me that God planted that vision in your mind of building a greatness factory, and not just one. Greatness factories all over the world. And every time I want to quit on that, she reminds me of that vision. Like, don't waver on that vision. Now, because I'm building this, which requires a significant amount of capital, there's a lot of things that she's had to sacrifice on, or we've had to sacrifice on, that we said, no, we can't do that because we're doing this. Right? And there's opportunities we've passed up. There's financial opportunities. There's real estate opportunities. There's things that have come along that we could have thrown in the towel on the greatness factory, but we sacrificed for because we feel like that's our vision. Does that make sense? And we got to get back. We always have to come back to that vision. Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Don't waver from it. Don't be afraid of it. Keep pushing forward. And listen, that monster, don't think that monsters don't get insecure too. Like, they have doubts of insecurity. They have, right? And they need that other person to keep pushing them and go and stay focused on the vision of where we're going. We feel like when you get out of alignment of where the vision is, that's when you really just get out in la-la land. So the last exercise on here is, what is your monster vision? You know, my monster vision is really big right now because we got a huge opportunity with the Greatness Factory for Kids, which is a new thing we've brought to the market, you know, online programming to go out to the marketplace. And we feel like that's a huge opportunity. Could be hundreds of millions of dollars opportunity. We feel like the Greatness Factory is a huge opportunity for us. And we feel like the Monster Producer Coaching Program is a big opportunity for us. So we have a lot of visions, but we got to remember, like, this is what we're doing here. This is where we're going. So I don't want you to just wake up 10 years from today with no vision and go, well, we just went through the motions and we worked hard, but we didn't move towards something, right? Because progress is a natural motivator for people. Okay? It's a natural motivator for people. So take a minute right now and talk about, what is that big vision that you're working toward together?
Right. There's a place at the bottom for your next goal setting date. The reason that is there is because when we started our little nights at Bonefish, that vision has changed a lot, and it will change constantly, should change. So I think it's important that we revisit this often. We're going to be digging into this deeper in Florida at Sabbatical, February the 14th through the 17th. We're going to do a full retreat weekend on this book. All three of these books, actually, we'll dig in deeper. So if you're interested in that, we've got a few bedrooms left. We would love to have you do that with us.
My wife has lived with a monster for 50 years. Janie's in the back right here. Honey, stand up. That's my bride. We celebrated our 50th year wedding anniversary, September the 8th, and we have 7 living children. We have 8 children, but 7 living children, all married with 23 grandchildren. And so the couples we took them all up to the Broadmoor in Colorado, and the Broadmoor owns some wilderness property outside of the Broadmoor, 8 or 10 miles into the mountains and up on top of the mountains. And so we stayed up there in the wilderness and did, anybody ever here done any zip lining? Huh? How many of you have zip lined? Raise your hand, okay? Have you seen, you know what I'm talking about, zip lining? So we zip lined over canyons 1,000 feet, and Janie and I did. Now, I'm 68. She's much younger than me, but she's been married to me 50 years, so she's not that much younger. And I don't think you're going to find many, men and women in their late 60s zip-lining across 1,000-foot canyons. It was really amazing. It was tremendous. So I'm so grateful to know Coach Burt. I met Coach Burt through the president of our company, who watched him online and introduced me to Coach Burt online. And we were at a leadership conference, and she said, we have a leadership conference every quarter. I have a health and wellness center in Houston because I believe everybody needs a coach, doctor, to coach them on a path of health and wellness naturally so they enjoy a better quality of life. Right, Derek? Right, Meredith? That's right. So without pharmaceutical drugs. So we help people learn to eat healthy, take vitamins and minerals, replenish your hormones, and do some exercise. If you've got allergies, we treat for that. And we help people get healthy and well naturally. So we started the business, and I always am looking for people to help me improve. I'm 68. I learned stuff from Coach. I go, I should have learned that 35 years ago. That's ridiculous. It's so obvious, certain things that he brought about. Well, our staff, we have on staff 100 on staff, and we have 5 businesses that we run out of our health and wellness center, vitamin store. We run a pharmacy. We run Hotze Elite Physicians to train other doctors, and then we have a management company. So those are 5 things we do. And most people would say, you know, you're 68, I go back to 50-year reunion, and you can imagine, now some of you have gone back to your maybe 20-year reunion, but I've gone back to my 50-year reunion, and the guys are big and fat and overweight and not working anymore and retired, and I'm going, you got to be kidding me. Really? I mean, and I'm thinking there's so much more to life. Right now, I'm in the best and most productive years of my life because I've got all this experience. and I've got the vitality and energy, and this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow night. You've got to start taking care of your health now. You don't start taking care of your health when you're unhealthy. You start taking care of your health so you stay healthy and full of energy and vim and vigor and enthusiasm for life. So that's an important part of being successful as an entrepreneur, is being healthy. And Janie, thank God, has been healthy all our lives. She's never had any problems. She's been a healthy woman, and I've been healthy. And we take our vitamins and minerals more than you could ever imagine. We eat healthy, and we live our lives physically in a good manner. But more important than that, if you ask how somebody could live with me for 50 years, trust me, it's probably through a lot of prayer. My wife has her daily Bible study every morning, and while we were in medical school, we grew up in a Christian home, a Catholic home, but we had never made a personal decision for Christ. And we were friends of ours in medical school, and a friend of mine in dental school shared Christ with me, and we came to know Christ as our Lord and our Savior while we were in medical school. And that changed our whole life. We started attending a Bible teaching church. We began to read the Bible, do Bible studies, and that just totally dramatically changed our life. So you've got to have a solid rock to build your relationship on. You got to have something you believe in, and the truth is that Christ died and rose from the dead, and He's promised to give us life, and He can give life into your marriage too, and breathe life into your marriage. So it's hard to build a foundation. It's hard to build a home if you don't have a foundation. It's hard to build a marriage if you don't have a solid foundation. So I would encourage any of you that haven't really made a strong commitment to Christ, build your relationship on that, and you can derive wonderful principles from God's Word on how to conduct your life. If you just read a proverb every day, you read a proverb through the Proverbs once a month, that's 31 Proverbs in a month. You can read through Proverbs in a month. You read proverb every day, you'll be one of the smartest, most intelligent, wisest person in the room anytime, anywhere, because God's given us all the principles for living, and that's the first and foremost place. And that's why we like Coach Burt, because when Monica showed me the video about Coach Burt, he had devotional times. I said, what coach does that? What business coach shares his Christian faith? He's going to try to reach everybody. Well, Coach believes that he wants to surround himself with people who believe the way he believes. So he has a message that on one hand attracts, but on the other hand it may repel. But he doesn't want to be around a bunch of people who think totally opposite he does, a bunch of wackadoodles like they have running around in Washington, D.C., all these Antifa people. He didn't want to be around those kind of people. He wants to be around people like you that have values, that have work ethic, that have a Christian faith and belief, and he puts that out there. And that attracted us to him. I said, I bet I've had 10 coaches in the last 15 years or 10 consultants, but I've never had one like Coach Burt. And he comes in and spends time with us every month, and we got his material online. And he's just a great guy to be around, and he's challenged me. Anyway, I thank God for you, Coach Burt, and Natalie. I know he's got a great support. Behind every strong man, there's always a strong woman. So you've been, You're it. And so anyway, I'm glad to be here, glad to see you all tonight, and y'all are in a great group, just masterminding together like this. And you can set your goals high. Write them down. I'll just give you one last thing on goals, and I know you're talking about it tonight. We cut our teeth on Zig Ziglar. How many people cut their teeth? Anybody here ever listens? Raise your hand if you listen to Zig Ziglar, right? Okay. If you haven't, you need to get Zig Ziglar. He was like the greatest. And Zig would talk about setting goals, how important it was to set goals. You got to have a target to shoot for. You got to know where you're going so you can you know what direction you are. Otherwise, you wander around aimlessly. It's like a boat without a rudder. You got to have a set a course, and you got to have a target. And then the next thing you've got to do is you've got to write down the benefits of achieving that goal. That's the next thing you do. When we learned this, because we went by, the president of my company, I went by to visit Zig Ziglar, and he was away, and we met his son, Tom, who's a guest at our center, by the way. And Tom said, tell us about goals. And we go, well, we write down our goals, and then we write down the plan. He goes, no, that's not what Dad teaches. You got to write down the benefits. Well, how is it going to benefit me if I accomplish this goal? And then you write down, what are the obstacles that I face? What are obstacles that I face from achieving this goal? Who do I need to know to achieve the goal? What do I need to know to achieve the goal? And once you do that, then you write out your plan in detail. And once you write out that plan and close it off, you take action immediately. If that means picking up a phone, calling, making an appointment, do something to take action, because action creates energy, and energy enables you to achieve your goal. That's what Zig Ziglar taught, and we found that that really works in life. And as soon as you take action towards achieving that goal, immediately that goal starts showing up on your doorsteps from places you never imagined. You sit down on an airplane, and all of a sudden somebody right on the plane's thinking about the thing you wrote down, and he's teaching you. It's amazing how God works as providentially. I always think anytime I sit down beside somebody or meet somebody, there's a reason. God brought that person into my life. It's a providential meeting. What can I learn? How can I help that person? What can I learn from that person? And if you look at every time you meet somebody as a divine appointment, it changes the way you interact with people. And all of a sudden, it can be the meagerest person. It could be a janitor you meet and talk with, or it could be the president of a company, or anybody in between. But everybody's got value in God's sight, and you can learn something from them. Anyway, I could go on my soapbox long. I get to talking, but God bless each one of y'all, and I know y'all are going to do great, especially under his leadership. He's a great guy. God bless y'all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I knew the first time I met this guy right here, he and I need to be together, right? So he's got a lot of good things to say. If you're a man and you're available tomorrow night, come to the house. He's going to talk about how your body affects your dreams. And there's a lot of things that I've learned from him that I didn't know about how to get your body operating at a very high frequency. If you're going to do monster things in the world, the number one thing you got to have is energy. You can't be tired and exhausted and run down and beat up if you got monster goals, okay? So that's very important for all the ladies. I've already had a whole bunch of women say, when's he coming back and doing a women's event? So trust me, we're going to make that happen too for all the women. So we'll be bringing Dr. Hotze back, and I do go to Houston every month, spend time with him and his staff, and it's a fascinating time. But Natalie and I want to thank you for coming. I hope this was valuable for you. Listen, I want to build if you're not in our coaching program and you're interested in talking about our coaching program, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you that we'd love the opportunity to spend time with you. We're coaching over 700 people right now, and they're all interested in growth. So this is just one component of the coaching cycle. We do stuff for kids, we do stuff for faith, we do stuff for the entrepreneurs, so we'd love to have that conversation. The books at your table are yours as part of the night. The Couples Goal Guide obviously is yours. We don't want that back after you've written in it. But that's yours, and we'll be around for just a little bit, but I do want to thank you for coming. And Lena, thank you for helping my wife bring this vision to the world. And every day she was uncomfortable, you know what I said? Just wait till you hold it in your hands, girl. When you hold your book and you get that first copy. I remember when I wrote my first book, that was 13 books ago. I remember when I got that book, I was like, oh, man, it made it all worth it. And when she got those things in and looked at it and could hold it in her hands, it was a good day. So I thank you for helping her on that, okay? All right, guys, God bless you. Thank you for coming tonight.